Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Patient Zero by Nicholas Briggs. This would be the start of a trilogy which would conclude in Blue Forgotten Planet and would see the departure of Charlie from the Sixth Doctor era. So this was the starting point of her leaving, and it is oh, wow. This is the first time I've listened to this, so I do apologise if this video is all over the place. But I was not expecting to absolutely adore this adventure. It also concludes a loose story arc that's been going around in a few other Doctor Who stories. And it revealing the mysteries of this particular collective group of viruses have been spread across through space and time. As we get to see the origins of this particular virus facility. Yeah, and it also features the Virons, audio exclusive monster. Actually, I tell a lie because they first appeared in a 10th Doctor comic book, also written by Nicholas Briggs. So that's really cool. And they've been retroactively fit in. I'm a bit confused from what I've read because in this story, the Doctor doesn't know who the Virons are, but one of their stories is one with the 5th Doctor. So, and I believe that came out before this as well. So I'm a bit confused on that, but just listening to the story on its own is fantastic. And it also features the Daleks, which is really nice. Here they start sounding like what they do in the TV series. The way they speak and the way they, every time they move, they have that machine noise. To me, when I listen to this, I picture the new series Daleks. There's the official Big Finish CD cover, which have the 60s Daleks for some reason. And you got the Virons there, and that's really cool. And like always, I make my own DVD covers. Now here, I did put it together myself. And I was kind of a bit disappointed that the image didn't have the Doctor, so I kind of retroactively fitted him in. And there you got him with his blue costume. That's very cool, isn't it? Patient Zero. Spine, if anyone's interested. Very nice. And there's the back. How cool is that? So the story actually picks up from a plot point in the audio drama The Ring Cloud Man, a story which I haven't listened to. In it, the Doctor notices that Charlie was trying to get a particular time machine in that story. And also as well, he notices that she has a very sensitive relationship to the web of time, and she seems very well aware of the delicacy of the web of time, which is very unusual for a companion. And so it got to a point where the Doctor locked the TARDIS doors, confronted her about this, and is like, right, we're not going anywhere until you tell me, who are you, Charlie? What are you doing in my TARDIS? How do you know all this? And basically the premise of the Doctor having an unreliable companion from his point of view, which is from my point of view as well, because I'm listening to these in chronological order of the Doctor. Yeah? And Charlie actually does try and start talking to him. In probably one of my favourite pre-credit scenes in audio drama form. She starts collapsing and feeling ill, and the Doctor also states that she's turning invisible. And she's like fading in and out, intangibility when you can see her. And she's kind of like listening to things and everything starts becoming fuzzy. She's also starting to remember her first encounter with the Sixth Doctor, in which she walked into his TARDIS and was surprised that it wasn't her Doctor. And then from the mist, almost like something like it has invaded her personal memories, you hear a woman say, "Charlie, I love you." And then the credits roll. That is how you open a story. That is just fantastic. I absolutely love that. It grips you into the narrative. It's a great way to introduce this this character who we'll get onto, and just everything about it. So when the story then actually starts, we get introduced to, I believe his name is Fatelin, this character who protects this virus communication colony-like thing. It's like a spacecraft that carries a lot of viruses that have been all the viruses throughout space, and they've basically been collecting loads of these weird and strange viruses, which I've stated before have appeared in previous Doctor Who audio dramas. I don't know if any of them took place before or after this, but I know one of them regarding a telephone disease appeared in a previous audio drama. And they get the sense that someone's invading, so they're basically locking it down until the Virans can come and collect these viruses and find a place where they can destroy them without harming anyone. The scene starts off with him talking to a character who we only hear at the start, and they build up the tension to the Virans throughout the story. From parts 1, 2, 3 and 4, they keep building up the Virans are going to appear, that the Virans are this really dangerous force. And when Fatelin is talking to this character who you only see at the start, this character states that he's heard rumours that nobody has survived an encounter with the Virans, and that that when they communicated to people, they kill them just so that no sort of infection can spread. But Fatelin is confident that they are at least rumours, and if not, then it was for the greater good. They live in a society where the Virans are like the supreme mode of power. They're judge, jury and executioner in this sector of the galaxy. And so this character who feels very unsure and very nervous against the probability of meeting the Virans, he knows and he trusts that he has to. And so we cut back to the Doctor and Charlie, where Charlie starts having this weird dream where she can hear somebody calling out saying that she, whoever this character is, loves her. And she also gets a sort of flashback of when Charlie goes back into the TARDIS. But this time, there's another voice beside the Doctor, seemingly like a companion that we've never met. As just before the Doctor speaks, she states, I don't know what to think about her. And then the Doctor's like, who are you? What do you want? What do you want? And she wakes up then, and she finds herself in the Zero Room. And she's talking to the Doctor who's been looking after her while she's been fallen ill. And she's using the Zero Room. Nice little callback to Cast Revolver to basically heal herself. And she states that the Doctor basically states that he's ill and he's been going on little adventures to help. And then she's like, I'm sorry, Doctor, I'm sorry for upsetting you. I will tell you my backstory. Aren't you concerned? Aren't you upset that I wasn't telling you everything? And the Doctor's like, Charlie, that was years ago. What? That bit really is like, oh my God, years. The Doctor has been looking after her, this woman who he doesn't actually know. I mean, he's been travelling with her, but he doesn't know her, and he kind of, last time they spoke to each other, he tried to confront her and got really passionate about it. And he's been looking after this poor girl, and he's been tracking some sort of virus. He also states that this should be impossible. The Doctor said that the TARDIS has tracked a invader to the TARDIS, which was standing exactly where she was, and that it takes the form of a virus, and this should be physically impossible. The TARDIS should be immune to bringing people to protect. It should protect people from diseases, which actually explains a massive plot hole in a majority of Doctor Who stories, where it's like you think, why don't the characters carry the diseases like everywhere? I mean, if they're going back and forward in time constantly. So here it actually explains a little thing. So that kind of makes this story sort of necessary in a way. So anyway, the Doctor has tracked this virus to this viral infection space station, and so the Doctor goes out and leaves Charlie on the TARDIS. Now, one of my few criticisms, which I can't really aim at because I am missing a lot of stories in our era, and the only really criticism which I think is genuine for me is the first story in which they appeared. But this is another case in which the story has a majority of time of them separated. But I think here, each story that they are told is so goddamn interesting. Maybe too interesting. Sometimes it does feel like these two elements should be their own stories, but together it kind of does feel a bit jam-packed, for the better, mind you. As the Doctor goes to the space station and he meets Phelan, who is going to take the Doctor to Phelan. Yeah, we also learn here that Phelan is this strange, I can't remember the name of his species, but basically he can make duplicates of himself and rejoin. And so all of the supporting cast are played by one guy. Now this makes this story so well realised, as really we only got to connect to just one character to connect to all of them, as they're all basically the same person. And you do learn a lot about Phelan. He's a very determined fellow to keep this society of this going, and he's also extremely loyal, despite the fact that he could be killed, he could be utterly destroyed. He stays on the space stations waiting for the Virons, and the Doctor learns and grows to know him, and this character is concerned that the Doctor might be carrying some new diseases, or might be getting contaminated by the other ones, and so he's really concerned for the Doctor. And my God, I just really like this story. We do get a lot to learn a lot. But anyway, at one point he worries that the Doctor might be causing some sort of infection, and so with a deep heart, like with huge regret, he sends the Doctor to be destroyed, basically just shoving him in the bin for the destruction. However, the Doctor is saved by the last moment by teleportation, leading into our first cliffhanger, where the Doctor's like, "Oh, this is ironic. Doctor, you are a Dalek. You have been captured by the Daleks." That's that's a great cliffhanger, even though it reminds me a lot of Earthshock, although the Daleks do appear on the cover, so it's kind of obvious they were here, but it's more of the shock of their sudden appearance, as the Doctor originally thought he was saved by a teleportation, only to realise it was the Daleks. Now, the Daleks here are written incredibly well, and that could mainly be the factor of one particular plot element in this. For you see, these are not any Daleks, these are time factioning Daleks. These are Daleks that have been travelling through time, and they have a leader, a Dalek time controller. Now, this is a very fascinating character. He's not like any other Dalek we've seen. He's got a much more personality into his voice. When he's angry, he kind of grits his teeth, and he kind of reminds me of Dalek Khan from The Stolen Earth and Journey's End. If you've seen that story, you know what I'm on about. He's kind of a little bit more crazy compared to other Daleks, and he is what we consider a smart Dalek. When things don't go the Dalek's way, instead of just brutally just going for it, this Dalek changes the plan, alternating the viewpoint, and is known to keep the sensitive of time. For example, he doesn't prophesize that the Doctor's involvement in the story, and so he tells the Daleks to keep him prisoner, don't kill him, because they cannot alter the timeline too much, otherwise what they've come here for might possibly fail. They predict that they get their hands on this weapon, that the timelines need them to be at this location. And they're also looking for Patient Zero, who we don't know who that is. So back to Charlie. She starts seeing this girl more and more, and she comes off really, I don't want to say childish, but she's very innocent in her mindset, and she talks, and she basically sounds like she's not like she's in love with the Doctor, and that she's obsessed with him, and that she states stuff that Charlie kind of already knows at one point, like her and this character who's revealed to be named Mina gets into a debate about the Doctor, and that Mina is his greatest companion, being through multiple adventures. And she's like, well, did you know the Doctor can change his face, be a completely new man? And Charlie's like, yes, of course I knew that. You're just a fragment of my imagination. However, she starts naming incarnations that Charlie has never met. And Charlie gets a bit confused, because she starts thinking that this Mina character is an hallucination. And Mina is just such a fascinating character. She's just such a weird, odd entity. When Charlie first meets her, she describes her as just a blur, and slowly throughout the story her appearance becomes more and more concrete in her eyes. And she also explains that she had this virus, and that she was also infected, and usually the TARDIS protects the Doctor's companions from any sort of infection. However, Charlie was not protected because of her strange relation to the timelines and just her wrongness in the universe. And so Mina was allowed to basically infect her. And throughout the story, Charlie tries to go out and save the Doctor. However, she gets captured by Daleks and gets thrown in a cell. But her infection gets worse and worse and worse, to the point where she can actually go through walls, only for Mina to then start slowly taken the appearance of Charlie Pollard and taken her voice. And then the Dalek comes out through the corridor and tries shooting Pollard. But she doesn't aim at the real Pollard. He aims at Mina. Mina has taken Charlie Pollard's place, leaving Charlie only just a voice in Mina's life, which is just a really horrifying thing that this character just kind of took over a companion role. It's very disturbing. I really like this idea. Back with the Doctor, we get a fantastic scene where Phelan's duplicates get killed by the Daleks, and the Doctor's absolutely mortified by this. Phelan explains that he can feel all of his he can feel some of his duplicates' death. It's strange. Sometimes he can and sometimes he can't. I believe the implication is that he can feel them when they're close by. But even still, he's like, it's him, innit? And he's very personally connected to himself. And the Doctor is horrified by this. And they basically ask Phelan to work for them. There's also a great bit where the Doctor's like, the Daleks need this ship, so I can't believe I'm going to say this, but they're asking me to tell you to open the doors. Which is unlike a Dalek, because usually they just blast in through. So the Daleks know about the sensitivity of these viruses. They get scattered out through space and time. And we get a great scene in which is just constantly just murdering people. And the Doctor is telling Phelan, like, please just tell them what they want to hear about Patient Zero and these viruses. Surely it can't be so important that all of your other selves are getting murdered. And Colin Baker's performance in this is just so phenomenal. Despite Big Finish softening up his Doctor, here he brings out a lot of his previous angers and brash emotions. But here it really works, as he does this passionate speech about how if strong people with strong wills can disobey a Dalek's order after so many threats to death and after so much murder, then he's not strong enough. He's not that person of great will. He is not. And despite Phelan telling the Doctor, be strong, the Virons will be here and he'll sort everything out, the Doctor just can't do it. And so he helps the Daleks open the doors to try and find this Patient Zero. Previously, when Charlie gets sent into the prison, she mentions Mina, like this girl in her head, Mina, and the Dalek's like, say that name again, Mina. You have been in contact with Prisoner Zero. And Mina is not only a real character, but she's also Patient Zero, the person that the Daleks are after. From what she states is that she seemed to have lost her memory, and that she turned invisible after being experimented on by time traveling Daleks, and so she escaped into one of their ships and left them in one of their adventures against the Doctor when he was in his first incarnation, which might be a reference to the story The Chase, and that she's been with the Doctor as this invisible entity in her side as TARDIS for all these years. So she's been an invisible companion for so many years. So technically she's been in more stories than any other companion. We just haven't seen her. And she has this ability where if she touches a Dalek, the Dalek just gets destroyed. It's later revealed that Patient Zero was the Daleks' attempt to create a virus using the viruses that they have picked up in the future, which resonated from this place, to infect people with a disease which will make you turn into the species of the infected. And what their plans would do is to experiment on Mina, and when it turned out that her infection was effective, they infected a Dalek with it to try and convert every other species in the universe into Daleks. And so, yeah, and when Mina, disguised as Charlie, interacts with the Doctor later in the story, she rescues him from the crutches of a Dalek. She basically is like, okay, Doctor, I really want to tell you my backstory. It turns out I was actually experimented on by the Daleks, and then I came to you in the year 5 billion, which was the start of the Condemned. And just, wow. India Fisher as Mina is just so creepy. She's constantly just fascinated with the Doctor. And at the start, the Doctor is really glad about this. He's very boastful. But later on, he gets to the point where it's kind of toxic, and the Doctor gets really mad at her for just constantly applauding him, which is kind of like the opposite of the Sixth Doctor that we met in the Twin Dilemma. So that's a really cool contrast. And the Doctor comes up with a plan, as just before the Virons come into the ship, the Doctor sends a self-destruct system, setting the ship, setting the bombs off and exploding it. However, when it happens, everything seems to stop, nothing seems to happen, and all the Daleks seem to be unoccupied as they're trying to freeze. They tried to freeze all of the explosion. Ship doesn't explode. And so the Doctor explains that, the Doctor states that the Virons will come, they pick the viruses, and the Daleks won't have time to escape, and the bomb will explode, but only harming Dalek life. And seemingly that's how the story ends. But there's still about 10 minutes left of the adventure. For the Doctor and Mina go back into the TARDIS. But the Doctor's he goes back out to see how long the Daleks have their time freezing abilities as the Virons come and pick up some of the viruses. This is going to take a while. And the Doctor kind of gloats against the time controller, stating that you Daleks are all predictable, you never learn. And the Dalek teases, it's teach us then, Doctor, I am ready to listen. And this is probably, spoiler warning, because this scene is absolutely fantastic. So, here's a massive spoiler warning. The Dalek time controller points out to the Doctor that these viruses that they've captured not only resonated from here, but were scattered throughout space and time in the future. And the Doctor kind of is like, no, of course not. And then he starts panicking as the Daleks start to gloat, as it's I have learned, and this is what I've learned, that we are victorious. And Mina's Charlie comes out, and so does Faitlin. And the Doctor basically exclaims, right, I need to set up an anti-bomb, and Phelan, you get everybody out and rush and hurry, and Charlie, you get back to the TARDIS now. And there's this massive argument where Charlie just will not leave the Doctor. And this is the bit where I was on about, where the Doctor's like, don't argue with me, girl, just get back to the TARDIS now. It's and the Doctor's planning on sacrificing himself to keep the bomb frozen as quickly as possible, as much as possible, so that the viruses can go get out. But the Dalek time controller orders the Daleks to stop freezing time. Let the explosion happen, because this will be the explosion which scatters the viruses all out of space and time. And the Doctor claims he can do something about it, but he has to stay behind and basically die. To which Mina, getting extremely uncontrollable, knocks the Doctor out and drags him back to the TARDIS. And when she gets into the TARDIS, she proclaims to the Doctor that Phelan knows how to deactivate the bomb. He will stop it. And the Doctor's like, but he doesn't know, only I can do it. And then boom, in the background, as the station explodes and the viruses are scattered through space and time. And this bomb is a temporal bomb, so the TARDIS gets flung out through space and time. The Doctor has failed. And this also leads into a cliffhanger into the next story, as the TARDIS is all over the place. And that's Patient Zero. Overall, this was a fantastic listen. There's a lot of bits I just kind of glanced over because there was just so much to talk about. This is easily Colin Baker's best performance so far as the Sixth Doctor. I'm not even joking. Not only is he a more focused, a more well-rounded Doctor, much more in line with the core Doctors. Here we also get that gloating, also like massive speeches, and it's just this passionate Doctor that we saw in the TV show. So basically in this case, it's the best of both worlds. And it's just absolutely amazing. The Daleks are absolutely threatening in this as they manipulate the Doctor to do their bidding and just murder everyone. The Dalek time controller is one of the most fascinating Dalek characters, and the subplot with Charlie and Mina, despite it really feeling more of a setup for later stories, as it doesn't really have much to focus on in here, the plot twist that Mina is actually Patient Zero allows this story to feel a lot more rounded and is a great start to a trilogy. And there you go, that's Patient Zero. So join me next time when the Doctor and Mina, disguised as Charlie, get involved with a civil war with the Draconians. So I'll see you next time for Paper Cuts. I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!